My morning coffee tasted like ash today, not the usual warmth. Mr. Davies called me in, saying my 26-year-long performance was perfect, then gave the big promotion to his daughter Brooke. I just sat there, quiet, watching my entire future disappear. It's hard to imagine anyone laughing about that, right? Before we continue, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I'd love to know. It was a Tuesday, just like any other Tuesday morning at Davies Corporation. The office hummed with the quiet clatter of keyboards and the faint scent of stale coffee. I, Brenda Maeve, had been part of that hum for 26 years. 26 years. Think about that, a whole lifetime for some folks. I started here when I was barely out of college, fresh-faced and eager, and I'd seen this company grow from a small outfit in a cramped building to the big shiny glass tower it was now. Mr. Davies, the founder, he was like a second father to me, in a professional sort of way. We'd built this place together, really. I knew every client, every project, every little secret that made Davies Corp tick. My desk, with its worn edges and the little framed photo of my dog Max, felt like home. This morning started normal though. I was just pouring my second cup of coffee, thinking about the big presentation I had later that week for our biggest client, Sterling Solutions. It was a multi-million-dollar account, one I'd personally brought in almost 15 years ago and nurtured ever since. They trusted me, Brenda. Not the company, not Mr. Davies, but me. That was important. My phone buzzed on my desk, a gentle vibration. It was Mr. Davies's assistant, Cheryl. Brenda, Mr. Davies would like to see you in his office, please, she said, her voice always a little too formal for my liking, even after all these years. He says it's important. My stomach gave a little flip, a nervous butterfly. Okay, Cheryl, thanks, I replied, trying to sound calm. Important meetings usually meant good things for me. A new project, a bonus, maybe even, well, I tried not to get ahead of myself. I smoothed down my skirt, took a deep breath, and walked down the long carpeted hallway to his corner office. The door was open, which was unusual. He was usually all about privacy. Mr. Davies was sitting behind his enormous mahogany desk, the one he'd had since the old building. He looked a little uncomfortable, actually. He wasn't usually uncomfortable. Brooke, his daughter, was sitting in one of the guest chairs, fiddling with her phone. Brooke. She joined the company about 5 years ago, after finishing some fancy business school. She was bright, sure, but she'd hopped around different departments, never really settling in, never really getting her hands dirty like I had. She knew theory, I knew the real world. Brenda, come in, Mr. Davies said, standing up and motioning to the other guest chair. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes. Have a seat. I sat, my heart doing a little tap dance in my chest. Something felt off. I glanced at Brooke, who just gave me a quick, almost apologetic half-smile before looking back at her phone. So Brenda, Mr. Davies began, leaning back in his chair, hands clasped over his belly. You've been with us a long time. 26 years, in fact. And I have to say, your dedication, your loyalty, your performance, it's been nothing short of perfect. Stellar. Truly invaluable. I felt a warm flush of pride. Okay, maybe this was it. Maybe the promotion I'd been hoping for, the one everyone knew I deserved, was finally happening. My mind, even though I knew I wasn't supposed to think that way, started picturing the new title, Senior Vice President of Client Relations. It felt right. Thank you, Mr. Davies, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. That means a lot. He cleared his throat. Yes, well. Because of that, and because we're looking to the future, to innovation and new leadership, I've made a decision. He paused, looking from me to Brooke, then back to me. The pause felt too long, like a stretched rubber band about to snap. I've decided to promote Brooke to the position of Senior Vice President of Client Relations. My breath hitched. The words hung in the air, heavy and cold, like an unexpected winter storm in July. Promote. Brooke? My Brooke? The one who was still fiddling with her phone? The same Brooke who yesterday asked me how to format a spreadsheet? I must have looked like a fish out of water, mouth opening and closing without sound. Brooke. I finally managed, the name a thin whisper. Mr. Davies's smile faltered completely. Yes. She brings a fresh perspective, Brenda. New ideas, modern approaches. It's what the company needs to stay competitive. He spoke quickly now, like he was trying to get it all out before I could react. Of course, we still want you here, Brenda. We value you greatly. You'll continue in your current role. You'll be a mentor to Brooke, help her transition. Guide her. A mentor. Guide her. After 26 years of being the driving force, the trusted advisor, the one who actually did the work, I was now supposed to train the person who got my promotion. The humiliation washed over me, a hot, angry wave. It wasn't just that she got the promotion. It was the way it was delivered, the utter disregard for my years, my expertise, my quiet expectation. Brooke finally looked up, her cheeks a little pink. I'm really looking forward to learning from you, Brenda, she said, her voice sounding small, almost timid. I couldn't answer. My throat felt like it had closed up. All I could do was stare at Mr. Davies, whose gaze shifted nervously around the room, avoiding mine. He'd praised my perfect performance, then given my job to his daughter. It wasn't about merit, it was about blood. Simple as that. It felt like a punch to the gut, a betrayal so deep it stole my breath. This wasn't just a career setback, it was a personal affront, a dismissal of everything I had poured into this company. I stood up, slowly. My legs felt shaky, like I'd just run a marathon. Excuse me, Mr. Davies, I said, my voice barely a rasp. I think I need a moment. I turned and walked out of the office, not waiting for a reply. I could feel their eyes on my back, but I didn't care. I just needed to get away, to breathe. Back at my desk, I just sat down, not really seeing the screen or the photo of Max. My hands were shaking. Paul from accounting walked by and gave me a little wave. Hey Brenda, everything okay? You look a bit pale. I just shook my head, unable to speak. The world felt like it had tilted sideways. What had just happened? My perfect, predictable life at Davies Corp, the one I'd dedicated my adulthood to, had just crumbled. The days that followed felt like a bad dream, one I couldn't wake up from. Brooke, the new senior vice president of client relations, started her new role. And guess what? She had no clue. Absolutely none. My humiliation, which had started as a sharp sting, turned into a dull, throbbing ache that settled deep in my bones. Every morning, I'd come in, and there would be a new email from Brooke, asking for the most basic information about our clients. Brenda, can you tell me the preferred coffee order for Mr. Henderson from Sterling Solutions? She'd once asked. Or Brenda, what's the budget for the Miller account again? I can't seem to find it in the files. I felt invisible, a ghost haunting my own office. My years of experience, my meticulous notes, my personal connections, they were all now just a tool for Brooke. I was supposed to guide her, remember? It felt more like I was holding her hand while she paraded around in my shoes, which were clearly too big for her. Mr. Davies, whenever I saw him, would just offer a tight smile and ask, "How's Brooke settling in, Brenda? Everything running smoothly?" He seemed to genuinely believe that just by giving her the title, the job would magically get done. He was willfully blind. The clients, though, they weren't blind. My phone, which used to ring with calls for me, Brenda, now rang even more. Not for Brooke. Not for the new SVP. For me. Brenda, can you clarify this for me? Brooke seemed a little unsure, Mr. Sterling from Sterling Solutions asked one afternoon. She mentioned some new strategy, but honestly, it sounded a bit vague. What's your take? I had to bite my tongue to keep from spilling everything. I'm sure Brooke will elaborate soon, Mr. Sterling, I'd say, trying to sound professional, even as my insides twisted. She's just getting up to speed. But it wasn't just Mr. Sterling. It was Mrs. Albright from Horizon Tech, and Mr. Chun from Apex Systems. All the clients I had brought in, nurtured, and made loyal to me. They weren't loyal to Davies Corp, they were loyal to Brenda Maeve. That realization hit me like a ton of bricks one Friday afternoon. I was sitting at my desk, staring at a spreadsheet Brooke had totally messed up for the Sterling account. She tried to reorganize the client data, but she just made a mess, deleting important notes, misfiling contacts. It would take me hours to fix, hours I didn't have, hours she wouldn't even realize were needed. That's when it clicked. It wasn't just a client list. It was the client list. The lifeblood of Davies Corporation. The names, the numbers, the personal quirks, the anniversaries, the children's names, the golf handicaps, all the little details that cemented those relationships. They were all in my head, my personal notes, my carefully cultivated connections. The company depended entirely on me for these relationships. Without me, they had a database full of names, but no real connection, no trust, no history. The cold resolve that had been building inside me solidified into something hard and unyielding. I couldn't stay. Not like this. Not as a shadow, a glorified assistant to someone who didn't understand the first thing about what I did. This wasn't just about a promotion anymore. This was about my self-respect, my years of hard work, my professional identity being trampled on. The humiliation deepened, transforming into a quiet, burning determination. I went home that night, made myself a cup of tea, and sat at my kitchen table. Max, my dog, put his head on my lap, sensing my mood. I started drafting my resignation letter. But it wasn't just any resignation letter. This was going to be a statement. Every word chosen carefully. I knew I couldn't just walk away and let them flounder. I had to show them what they were truly losing. For the next 2 weeks, I meticulously went through my files. Not just the company files, but my personal notebooks, my digital contacts. I cross-referenced everything. I compiled a separate detailed list of every single client I had personally brought in and managed, noting their specific needs, their histories with me, their future potential. I documented every successful project, every renewal, every time I had gone above and beyond to keep them happy. This wasn't just data, it was a blueprint of my value. I also started making discreet phone calls, not to poach, but to gauge. Mr. Sterling, I'd say, I'm just doing a bit of an internal review, but hypothetically, if I were to, say, pursue independent consultancy, would that be something you'd consider? He'd always laugh. Brenda, if you went independent, I'd follow you anywhere. You're the only one who truly understands our vision. Those conversations were like fuel. I also began quietly building my own professional network outside Davies Corp, talking to old contacts, exploring new opportunities. I researched what it would take to start my own consultancy. I wasn't leaving for another job, I was leaving to create my own. This was a whole new game. The anger and sadness were slowly replaced by a fierce sense of purpose. This wasn't revenge yet, not fully. It was self-preservation, with a side of firm belief that justice had to be served. Finally, the day came. I'd prepared everything. My resignation letter, a copy of my meticulously compiled client list, a list that would make their eyes water, and my calm professional demeanor. I scheduled a meeting with Mr. Davies. Just him. Brooke wasn't invited this time. I walked into his office, feeling a strange mix of nerves and exhilaration. Mr. Davies looked up, a slight frown on his face. Brenda, come in. What can I do for you? I sat down, placing a neatly typed envelope on his desk. Mr. Davies, I said, my voice steady, I'm here to tender my resignation. He looked at the envelope, then at me, then back at the envelope. A flicker of surprise, then something else. Amusement? Resignation, Brenda? He chuckled, a low dismissive sound. Are you serious? After all these years? And now, just when Brooke needs your guidance most. He picked up the envelope, weighing it in his hand, a small superior smirk on his face. Come on, Brenda. Don't be dramatic. You've been a loyal employee. I'm sure we can work something out. A little raise, maybe? A new title, without the senior vice president part, of course. He genuinely thought I was bluffing, that I was just throwing a tantrum. He still couldn't see my value. That was it. That dismissive laugh, that casual wave of his hand, that utter lack of understanding. It was the ultimate humiliation, the final spark. Mr. Davies's laughter was a cruel echoing sound in the quiet office. He leaned back, still smirking, convinced I was making an empty threat. Good luck out there, Brenda, he said, shaking his head. It's a big world, and Davies Corp has always been good to you. You'll regret this, I promise you. His words, meant to be a warning, landed with the impact of a challenge. He thought he had all the power. He thought I was nothing without him. I just smiled, a small knowing smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. This was the moment. The exact moment I had been planning for. I pushed another, thinner, less official-looking envelope across his desk. Before I go, Mr. Davies, I said, my voice calm, almost casual, I wanted to make sure you had everything you needed for a smooth transition. He frowned, picking up the second envelope, his expression still condescending. He pulled out the single sheet of paper inside. It wasn't a resignation letter. It was a list. A carefully typed, meticulously detailed list, with names, company names, contact numbers, and projected annual revenue figures next to each one. At the very top in bold were the words, Brenda Maeve's personal client list, total annual value, $3 million plus. His eyes scanned the paper, and I watched his face change. The amusement drained away, replaced by confusion, then a dawning horror. His breath hitched. His eyes widened, fixing on my name at the top, then darting down the list, recognizing the names of Sterling Solutions, Horizon Tech, Apex Systems, all the big ones. All the ones I had cultivated for decades. What is this, Brenda? He stammered, his voice losing its arrogant edge, becoming thin and shaky. That, Mr. Davies, I explained, my voice still perfectly even, is the list of clients I've personally brought into Davies Corp and maintained for the last 26 years. The ones who call me when they have an issue. The ones who trust my judgment. The ones who told me, just last week, that if I ever started my own venture, they'd be keen to follow. I paused, letting that sink in. And as of today, those relationships, those connections, they walk out the door with me. He dropped the paper as if it had burned him. You can't do that, he sputtered, half standing from his chair. That's company property. Those are Davies Corp clients. Are they, Mr. Davies? I asked, leaning forward slightly, my gaze unwavering. Or are they clients of Brenda Maeve, who just happened to be working for Davies Corp? I've spent 26 years building these relationships, not just for the company, but for myself. I've gone to their weddings, consoled them through family losses, remembered their children's birthdays. They hired me, Mr. Davies. They always have. And they will continue to do so, under my new consultancy. I reached into my bag and pulled out a small folder. I also have letters of intent here, from Sterling Solutions, Horizon Tech, and 2 other major clients, expressing their desire to continue working with me independently. His face went from pale to ashen. His mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. The laughter was long gone, replaced by pure, unadulterated fear. The realization hit him, hard and fast, the company depended entirely on me. Not just on my performance, but on my relationships. And now, I was taking them. Just then, the intercom buzzed. It was Brooke. Dad? Are you okay? I heard some shouting. Everything all right? Mr. Davies swallowed hard, his eyes still fixed on me. No, Brooke, he rasped, his voice barely audible. Everything is not all right. He finally looked at me, pleadingly. Brenda, please. Don't do this. We can fix this. What do you want? A raise? A partnership? The senior vice president title, all of it? You can have it. Just, please don't take the clients. His entire demeanor had crumbled. He was no longer the confident boss, but a desperate man watching his empire falter. I shook my head slowly. No, Mr. Davies. It's too late for that. My decision is made. I stood up, adjusting my bag on my shoulder. I wish you and Brooke the best of luck. You'll certainly need it. I walked out of his office, leaving him to stare at the list and the letters of intent. I didn't look back. As I passed Cheryl's desk, she looked up, surprised by the silence. Everything all right, Brenda? She asked. I gave her a genuine smile, the first one in weeks. Everything is perfect, Cheryl, I said. Absolutely perfect. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. My new consultancy, Maeve Client Solutions, launched with a bang. Mr. Sterling was my first official client, signing on before the ink was even dry on my new business registration. Then Mrs. Albright, then Mr. Chun. The calls flooded in, not just from my old clients, but from others who had heard about my new venture. Word travels fast in our industry, especially when a company's backbone suddenly walks away. I heard through Paul, who still worked at Davies Corp, that things were not good. Brooke was completely overwhelmed, floundering without my detailed knowledge and personal connections. Clients were dropping them like hot potatoes, one after another, all heading to Maeve Client Solutions. Mr. Davies was frantic, making desperate calls, trying to salvage what he could, but it was too late. The company was bleeding money. Within 6 months, Davies Corp., the pillar of my professional life for 26 years, had shrunk to a shadow of its former self. I heard whispers of bankruptcy. Me? I was thriving. My new office, smaller but entirely my own, had a great view of the city. My schedule was packed, but it was my schedule. I was no longer a ghost, I was the architect of my own success. I had taken the humiliation, the dismissal, the laughter, and turned it into the fuel for my own fire. The revenge wasn't loud or malicious, it was quiet, precise, and profoundly satisfying. It was simply proving my worth, on my own terms. Max now slept peacefully under my own desk at my own company, his gentle snores a constant reminder of the peace I now felt. I had my respect back. And so much more. This story shows that sometimes, the biggest battles are won not with shouting, but with quiet, absolute certainty in your own value. And that sometimes, the best revenge is simply living well, and letting competence speak for itself. It's a powerful lesson, one I learned the hardest way possible. But I wouldn't change a thing. Before I say goodbye, I'd love to know what your biggest takeaway from my story is. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm truly curious to hear what resonated with you the most.